Hello, and welcome to the video lecture for Concept Assignment 10. And so hopefully in this lecture I'm going to go through everything you need to do. If you'll just go through in the same order I do it here, you should be fine. First thing you want to do is click on this Concept Assignment 10. When you do so, it's going to open up a document. You need to save it and then open that up. What I've got open here is the Word version of that document. So what we're doing is another SQL assignment, and this is SQL assignment 2, and we're going to do select statements with criteria and other SQL commands. And so I've provided you 2 additional handouts, outlines 4 and 5, and we'll show you where you get those here in a moment. And so you'll need the database that you created in Concept Assignment 9. You can go back and create that with the SQL commands. And then to complete this assignment, you're going to do all the queries that are in the SQL select criteria outline. And then you're going to do the second, or open the second outline, which deals with SQL and other criteria commands. And when you create those queries, you'll need to save the queries as the same number as they are listed in the documents. Once you've completed both of those steps or all of the queries, you're going to upload the Access database, and I'll have a link for you to upload that to in the week 14-15 section on Blackboard. You can't email the Access database to me because our email here on campus considers that a threat. And it won't allow any documents with that particular file extension to go through. So you've got to upload it into the link that I'm going to provide for you. So those outlines that I was talking about that also contain the actual commands are listed here in outline 4 and outline 5. So you need to download those, and I'll talk a little bit about each of those here shortly. So you just click on them and download that. And I've opened the Word document of that PDF version that was created for that. So the topics that we're going to talk about are the select command. We're also going to use some other keywords that go with that, the where criteria, be able to group by criteria, selecting from that group, and then being able to order the output of that query in either ascending or descending order using the order by clause. Something to pay attention to is that the SQL in Access, when you create a new field like a calculated field, it's going to generate something that's going to be like an expression. So it might say expression 1000. That's fine. So in the SQL in Access would require you to do some additional commands, which I showed in the previous week assignment. If you do as, then you can get the listing of the correct name. As long as it runs without any errors, you should be fine. So let me explain how this select command works with additional clauses that you can add to it. So some optional clauses, typically the basic query, which is what we did last week, is the select from statement. So you say select, you list the field name separated by a comma, you say from, and you list the tables where you're pulling that information from. Optional keywords such as the where, the group by, having, and order by need to go in a certain order. So you've got select, the column separated by a comma, from, and then you specify the tables. So what you're seeing here in the less than sign, greater than sign are the data that you need to provide. So the where clause, then you need to provide a condition. So where price is less than 3, something like that. Group by, you want to group by certain columns, so field names again. Having some kind of group selection, so this applies to that group. And then the order by, that's what you want to sort on in the output. And you specify ascending or descending. So when you use the where clause, this then, because you're specifying a condition afterwards, that's going to determine which rows can be retrieved. And that also means which rows are not going to be retrieved. You can make this as complicated as you like by using keywords and or. If you do an and after your first condition, it'll mean that the second condition has to evaluate to be true in order for that record or columns to be retrieved into your output. If you do an or, it means that only one of the conditions has to be true. You can also use the keyword like. So like is when you can retrieve values that partially match what you're looking for. And then what you're looking for is called the criteria. And hopefully we'll see some examples of that here shortly. So in your where clause, you're going to use a logical condition to determine what records you want to retrieve. So those logical operators are equal to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. The exclamation mark equal means not equal to, or you could use the less than sign followed by the greater than sign with no space in between for not equal to. A lot of times in other SQL languages, this exclamation mark equal to is the not equal to operator. The keyword group by enables summarizations across groups of related data. So you might be able to do some aggregate functions using that. So you would have having. And so when you use the keyword having, that's going to help you determine which groups will be displayed in that query. Again, it's going to also eliminate which groups will not be displayed. Please make note of this. So a query that contains a having clause must also have a group by clause. So you can't have a having clause by itself without a group by, but you could have a group by without a having. And the last clause here is the order by. So that, again, ascending or descending order. The default is ascending order, so you don't need to specify it if you don't want to, because it's always going to be in ascending order. Descending indicates the DESC, I should say, indicates a descending order. So let's go ahead and try some queries, and these will be the queries that you will type into your Access and then save them as this. So in the real world, you wouldn't get the actual statements of what you need to produce or write. You would just get a request from somebody or your boss that says, okay, I want the following information. I need a report that has product ID, product name, vendor ID, and product price for each product whose price is above 100. Well, the way you would write that out in SQL would be select, specify the column name separated by a comma. You don't need one for the last one. Then the keyword from and a space, and then the table where that data is going to come from. And then your condition, where is the key word for the clause, and then you would say some field name, and that needs to be a numeric type data, or you're going to get an error, greater than, and then the value you're looking for. And then all select statements are going to end with a semicolon. And keep in mind that in Access, we can only run one of these at a time. In other relational database management systems, we can load up all our queries and run them at once. So in order to run this inside of Access, we're going to need to get to the Access database. And we're going to need to get to the SQL panel. And to do that, you're going to go to Create. You're going to go to Query Design. You'll close that. And then there's this button in the upper left-hand corner called SQL View. And now we're ready to start typing in our commands. And so we'll have something like this. You don't want that first select there. And so we're ready to go. We're ready to run it. If everything goes well, you'll get this output. We'll need to save that as query 4. The next command that we want to do is query 5. Here it says retrieve the product ID, product name, vendor ID, and product price for each product in the FW category whose price is equal to or below $110. Okay, so we need to understand where our data is. And so when we write this query out, I'm back here in the SQL view again. So again, I'm going to do the select from, but now I'm looking for product price less than or equal to 110. And I know FW, that data, was in the field category ID. So it needs to match category ID equals FW. Notice that when my criteria is text, I've got to put single quotes around the text that I'm looking for. Numbers, if it's a numeric data type, I don't have to put any quotes, and I shouldn't put any quotes. Because if you put quotes, it's telling the processor here that you're looking for numeric text and not an actual number if you put quotes around it. So we're ready to run that. And there's our output, and that looks very similar to what we got as the output in our working file, our select criteria document. Need to save that. And I could do a save as for 6, or we could just close it. And now you got to go through that process again, create, query design, close that, SQL view, get rid of that, and then type in the command for query 6. So query 6 is looking for retrieve the product ID, product name, category ID, product price for each product in the FW product category, sorted by product price. So you would do the select, get the fields that you want from the table where category ID equals FW, order by product price in the default is ascending order. So that's what's going to happen here. So that's what we've got typed in. We're ready to run it. There's the output. Notice here, product price is how this is sorted in ascending order. I need to save that, so I'll hit save as query 6. This time I'm going to do a little shorter view. I'm going to go back and go to my SQL view again. And when I look at the next assignment for query 7, we want to retrieve those field names. Line this up for you. The product ID, product name, category ID, product price from that table product, where category ID equals FW, But this time the order by is going to be product prices in descending order. So note there's no comma here, and we use the keyword descending here, or the key DESC, and then the semicolon. So the only difference between the two is that I gotta put descending right here. So I'll do that. DESC, semicolon, save some typing. I'll run it. Doesn't like that at all. So I'll double check and see what I've done wrong. It looks like I didn't get rid of that semicolon here, so that's what the extended characters are. And now you can see the order is reversed. So I'll need to save this as 6. I don't want to override it. So I don't want to do a save. I've got a save as on my quick access toolbar. And now I want to make this query 7 as a data type query. So that changed it to 7. If I go back and look at my 6 here, you can see that's a little different. I can go to my view. And that's how we could do that, a little shorter than having to start over every time. Go ahead and close this, close both of them. And start over with a new area. I can do the next query in. There's only 2 more queries left here, so I'm going to leave this video a little long for this first part. So query 8 says retrieve the product ID, product name, category ID, and product price for each product, sorted by category ID and within the same category ID by product price. So that's a secondary sort, sort of like the phone book. Phone book's last name, then everybody with the same last name gets sorted by their first name. So that would be the secondary sort in that example. So let's type this in and see what we get. And this is what I have. We'll go ahead and hit run. So notice everything that's sorted by category ID is the primary sort. That's in ascending order. And then if they're the same, then they need to get sorted by product price in ascending order. And that's exactly what we have here. Need to go ahead and save query 8. And now we're ready to do query 9. So query 9 asks retrieve a record for each product whose product name contains the phrase boot. So we need to know where the data is located. So it's in the table product. And then our where clause, it's a little different than a numerical condition. We're going to use the field name, product name that contains something like boot. We're going to say like, and then we're going to say boot. Notice that we're going to use wildcards in front of the boot. The wildcard is the asterisk and it represents numerous characters. So I don't care what comes before it. I don't care what comes after it, as long as it has boot in there somewhere. And then I need to put it in quotes because it's text. So that's single quotes here. So let's go ahead and type that in. So I've typed it in. I've got it ready to run. So I'll hit run. And notice it's giving me this error. The select statement includes a reserved word or argument name that is misspelled or missing. So select is always looking for the field names you want to retrieve. Since in the example it's blank, it probably should have an asterisk there to represent all the fields in the product table. So now when we run it, you'll see that it pulled all the field names and the records that just contain the word boot somewhere in the product name. And that ends the video for the outline handout 4. So if we go back to the original handout for concept assignment 10, what we've just done is completed all the queries listed in SQL Select Criteria outline. And so the next video will contain all of the queries that go with the other criterion commands outline, and I'll have a description of those other commands as well.